This essay example, as well as thousands of others, is available in text format on our website for free and without registration. Simply Google Ivy Panda Free Essays.
Want to know what the difference between linking R and intrusive R is? Learn more here. This paper explains the meaning of intrusive R and linking R sounds in English phonetics. Introduction. The history of English can be very interesting to study. English is a universal language spoken in various countries across the world. However, different people from different regions speak this same language in a different manner. When a Briton is speaking English, there would be some noticeable differences from the speech that would be made by a Scottish or an American. The difference would even be bigger when it comes to speaking this language among Africans. According to Bauer, the difference can be too big that an individual would not be in a position to understand the other because of this contrast. This difference in pronunciation can be attributed to the historical evolution of this language. The language has evolved over the years in different regions in a different manner. American English differs from British English majorly due to its pronunciation. As Bauer notes, this difference majorly results from the pronunciation of the word R. There are varieties of non-rhotic English across the world. These varieties have different ways of pronouncing the sound R when it comes to different locations in a sentence. In rhotic English, the letter R would always be silent when such a word is pronounced. For example, the word international would be pronounced differently depending on the speaker. When a Saudi Arabian pronounces this word, the sound that comes out is international. This speaker would pronounce the word the way it is written. In normal English, British English, the phonetics of the above word would be international. A number of differences come out in the above two pronunciations. The two sentences below may also be pronounced differently depending on the individual. Her eyes. Her eyes. To analyze the pronunciation of the above two sentences comprehensively, we would look at how intrusive R, linking R, and lexical affect the way words are pronounced. Intrusive R, examples and meaning. In non-rhotic English, some cases occur where in a sentence, the sound R would be introduced in between two words that end and start with a vowel sound in places where they never existed before. Intrusive R is always witnessed when a word ending in a vowel sound is preceded by another vowel sound at the beginning of a subsequent sound. This can be witnessed in the first sentence, that is, her eyes. The sound in the word her is a vowel sound, and it is immediately followed by another vowel sound a. In non-rhotic English, the word would be pronounced with an R between the two sentences. The two sentences would have a similar pronunciation as follows. Her eyes. Her eyes. The two phrases may not bring the meaning of intrusive R because, in sentence A, the first word has an R in its spelling. The second sentence, B, begins with an R. When the phrase tuna oil is pronounced in non-rhotic English, it would sound like tun oil. The point that is worth noting with intrusive R is that it is always introduced in places it never existed before. The above phrase did not have R in its original structure. However, when pronounced, the R intrudes into the structure, that is, between the two words. Linking R, examples and meaning. In normal cases, most of the English words that end with R preceded by a vowel always lack the sound R. For example, in sentence A, above, the word her would be pronounced as ha. The word lacks the sound although the sentence has an R in its structure. However, in non-rhotic English, this word may be pronounced with R if the word that comes after the word is a vowel. Taking the first sentence above. Her eyes. This sentence would have R in the word her when pronounced in non-rhotic English. It would come out as her eyes instead of her eyes. The final sound that would come out of the above sentence would therefore be her eyes instead of her eyes. This can cause real confusion if the sentence is left as above. This is so because the next sentence would be pronounced exactly in a similar way. The second, B, sentence would be pronounced as shown below. Her eyes. This would cause confusion to a person listening to the two words pronounced. The two would be pronounced as in non-rhotic English. Her eyes, her eyes. Her eyes, her eyes. The above two sentences have no relationship whatsoever. The first sentence talks about the woman's body part, the eyes in specific. The second sentence talks about the woman's success, that is, her rise from her previous position to her current higher position. Listening to the above two sentences spoken in non-rhotic English, for example, American or Scottish English, one would not be in a position to detect the real meaning of the word unless the sentence is given further details. Broadbent says that the above two sentences can be supplied with other words or phrases to give them meaning. The two words can be enhanced as follows. Her eyes are sexy. Her rise was consistent. In the above sentences, it would be easy to rule out the phrase her rise because the rise cannot be sexy. It would leave the listener with no doubt that the speaker is talking about eyes and not rise. In the second sentence, it would also leave the listener with no doubt about what the speaker means. It may not make sense when one talks about yes being consistent. In both cases, it would require an individual to understand the context under which an individual is speaking in order to be in a position to understand the context under which an individual is communicating. Intrusive R and linking R, the difference. The difference between intrusive R and linking R is very clear. Both have their names originating from their roles. In intrusive R, the sound R is introduced between two words that never had R in their written structure, as long as the vowel sounds follow each other in the two sentences. In essence, this R intrudes into a place it never existed before. On the other hand, linking R appears when a word ending with R is followed by a word that begins with a vowel sound. The sounder would therefore be acting as a linking word. They have a difference in terms of origin, but they are phonetically similar. The difference between intrusive R and linking R is evidenced in the sentence structure. From the analysis, it can be observed that the two vowels differ significantly. Did you like this linking R and intrusive R examples and difference sample? To get more works like this one, make sure to check out the database of academic paper examples at ivpanda.com. You will find thousands of samples for all your study needs.